السلام عليكم، أهلا بكم في برنامجكم هذا علم وحضارة Sciences et Civilisations. Aujourd'hui, nous allons parler un peu toutes les langues, comme souvent c'est le cas. J'ai le grand plaisir d'accueillir avec vous c'est Omar Boum de l'Université de Californie. Nous allons présenter l'émission en anglais, parce que c'est la langue qu'il pratique dans son travail. Et elle sera bien évidemment sous-titrée. Et nous commençons tout de suite, si vous le voulez bien. Dear Omar Boum, I am so happy you are here with us in this program devoted to science and civilization, as you know. You are Moroccan, مرحبا بك. You are member of the Academy of the Kingdom of Morocco, as I am, and we are now here in this academy. We say hello to the perpetual secretary of this academy and thank him that he allows us to be here to record this interview, this conversation, this, how can I say, academic conversation about your work, and you are anthropologist. You are completely involved in studies about minorities, ethnic and religious minorities. But before that, we have to get a look on your training, your first training, how have you been in your as teenager, where have you grown up, and all these kind of things. First of all, Omar Boum, you were born in the south of Morocco.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Siali, for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be with you, to have this informal conversation and chat, called even chat. I am a son and a native of the Anti-Atlas. That is the region which is a very important region of southeastern Morocco, where you have, before you start getting into the desert, you're basically in the last series of oases of Jabal Bani. But I'm also between Jabal Bani and Wahddara. So the palm tree and the oasis is an important part of where I grew up. And the Qasar and the Kasbahs are also central to where my family.
It was your landscape.
Yeah. So and that's where I spent a big part of my childhood, at least until the age of I was 9 or 9 years old. Then I had to go to Ouarzazate, where I did part of my primary schooling.
Before
high school, with my brother, who was a primary school teacher. And then I went from Ouarzazate to Marrakesh. And then from Marrakesh to Bzou, to the region of Azilal, Bani Millan, where I got my high school degree. So you can see my roots are in the Sahara and in the mountains of the Anti-Atlas, and my wings are all over Morocco.
Yes, the road to the north until Marrakesh, where you did, I think, much of your bachelor. You got a bachelor in Marrakesh.
So after my high school degree, or my baccalaureate in Bani Mellal, in Bzou, in the village and the settlement of Bzou, which is Jalab al-Bziouya, and so after that.
Why this choice?
It was not a choice, because my brother was a primary school teacher and then a high school teacher.
Oh, yeah.
So wherever he went, he took me with him. So
it was for easiness.
So it was part of, that's what really allowed me to continue my education, is the support of the family. So family, you can see here, family support is central to where I am, and
for
from
many
here,
people in Morocco,
and
it's
from,
very important.
And from this place here, I salute him. I salute all the brothers and sisters and uncles and who have supported many Moroccans in this in their pursuit of education.
Oh yes.
So from there I went to Marrakesh, where I did my BA in English language and bachelor degree.
We call it also licence in French. And your bachelor, the first years after the baccalaureate.
So I did that in English language and literature.
Yes.
And from after that I went to Al Akhawain. I was part of the first cohort of Al Akhawain University, where I did an MA in applied humanities.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my
master.
And from Al Akhawain I worked at Al Akhawain for about 3 years until 2000. Where after that I went to the University of Arizona in Tucson, where I finished my PhD in cultural anthropology in 2006. That's basically a summary of my academic training.
You did it very fast. But let's go back to Marrakesh. What was your motivation for English studies?
It's actually an interesting story, and it's a story about mentorship. It shows how mentorship is important for people's success in education. So when I got my high school degree, baccalaureate, in BZU, I majored first in in English, l'Académie de Beni Mellal. So they have different regions.
Yes.
So I majored first, mostly in history and geography.
Okay.
And I wanted to pursue that year in 1989. In 1989, the late King Hassan II decided to that was the second year where they organized the Baccalaureate General.
Okay.
It started in 1988, 1989. And then I told my brother, look, now that I am the first in the region, I want to go and do my BA in geography and history. And my brother was really against it. He said, no, you have to go and finish your BA in English, because I've always liked the language.
Okay.
And that's the reason why. So that's the reason why I went from Beni Mellal to Marrakesh, and I think it was the best advice I got in my career, because it really opened up a lot of opportunities for me.
Yes, because the language is the basis to read everything. If you want to do some history and geography and you have no language at all for it, how can you deal with it? So,
but I think it's also what's interesting about this story is that sometimes what we wish for, and because of a moment of success, sometimes is not the best. Not the best choice. And then you have to think about long term, a long term approach to life. And I think the fact that my brother could see that English could be a tool for me to do the thing I will do in the future was so important.
He had a good vision.
He was a teacher. He could see that. He had a long life experience before him, and it really. So his name is Hussein Boom, and I credit him for what I am today.
That's beautiful. It's moving. Thank you. And after your bachelor, you said that you were in Ifran, and that it was just the beginning of this very famous now Akhawain University.
Yes, I am Al Akhawain University. I won't go into the history because people know this, but Al Akhawain, as a member of the first cohort, I am where I am today as a scholar, as a historian, as an educator, because of the opportunity that I got at that university. And not only in terms of the openness and the flexibility of a researcher, but also because of the opportunities to think broadly and to think freely.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So my first project at Al University, as somebody who finished his MA in applied humanity, was about Amazigh folk dances in Moroccan tourism.
Oh yeah.
And so basically, it was a critique.
Yes, of course.
And an analysis of the policy of the Ministry of Tourism in the use of Amazigh folk dances. And what it means, folklorization. So the festival, and what it means to local people in Ouarzazate, in Tata. So my research was in Tissint, in the oasis of Tissint. So you can see we go back. For me, as I said, my feet are always in the oasis.
Yes.
My feet are always in the province of Tata. Not that I am chauvinistic, no. I think because every member or every citizen of this country have to utilize the opportunities they have, the skills they have, to make sure that each region of Morocco is not only valued, but also is put out there for the rest of the country. So without my work, Tata, Fumazgit, Tissint, Aqqa, and all these works, Mohammed, Fumazgit, won't be known. So that's a responsibility, but it doesn't mean that we're thinking about regional chauvinistic ways. No, it's just a way to say that every region has to be valorized in a way that it gives more importance, or it gives an image to the whole country as a whole.
You have more capabilities to broaden your field when you have respect for local roads.
Yes. So that project about oasis and folk dances and tourism really was my first entry into what it means to be a marginal, a minority, and how that places you in the whole picture, in the whole.
It was like a predisposition to the field of your research.
Yes, yeah.
And after all this Moroccan experience in your training, you joined the States, America, and first, as you said very quickly, the University of Arizona, when you had there your PhD?
My PhD. But before I go to that, I want to say that Al gave me the intellectual capabilities and skills to be a scholar, but it also gave me the social experience and cultural experience to adjust quickly to life in America.
Oh yes.
So working at Al University for about 3 years after I finished my MA, I was running programs, cultural programs. I was involved in the newspaper of the university. I was doing a lot of things. So
the atmosphere, the cultural atmosphere was already there.
Yes. So the moment I stepped in the United States,
You are ready.
I was ready. I could not. It didn't take me time to adjust. Also, partly because Tucson was a desert town.
Okay.
So going from the desert, from Fumazgit, Mohammed, to Ifran, the snow, where I really had to adjust to snow and cold weather.
Oh, yes.
And now going back to the desert, to Arizona, I felt at home.
Ah, good.
I felt at home. Yeah.
The title of your PhD was?
So I did my PhD what I wanted to work on at the beginning of the University of Arizona is on water management in desert environment. Mostly how people, subsistence farming in oases.
Okay.
And water management. But getting there, on arriving there, I found out that a lot of the things I wanted to work on have already been done in different ways. So I want to have an impact in the academic and intellectual field. So I started thinking about other ways, other topics. I was very lucky because the professor I worked with, his name is Thomas Park, had introduced me to the work of two key national historians. The work of Mohammed Dawood from Tetouan, Tarikh Tetouan, and the work of Al-Mukhtar Susi. خلال جزولة سوس العالمة من أفواه الرجال المعسول, all of these really classic works. So that put me in the position where I could see that I can still focus on the region that I come from,
Yes.
do my research, but I could also think about ways to other topics. And this is where, looking at Islamic manuscripts,
Yes.
I was able to find that there was a lot of discussion about Jewish-Muslim relations,
Yes.
but from a Maliki perspective.
Yeah.
And that gave me the idea, with the advice of another key scholar that I worked with, Daniel Schroeter, who worked on Essaouira and the relationship between Essaouira and Great Britain at the time in the 19th century, and the early 20th, and mostly in the 19th century. So by looking at that work, I was able to think about ways to write about the Jews of the Sahara from Muslim perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
So
and afterward, when now we have to say that now you have the chair in the University of Los Angeles called Sephardic Studies. Sephardic Studies.
The Amado Chair in Sephardic Studies.
Sephardic Studies. So after all the PhD you did, you moved completely to this kind of studying interaction and relations and mobility of Jewish as a minority in a country, Muslim country as Morocco. Is that
yes.
the case?
So the foundational work of my academic career is about this relationship between Jews and Muslims in a desert environment, in where there is scarcity of resources,
yes,
scarcity of water, the conditions to how does in the environment, in a desert environment, influences the way two different religious groups live together.
Yeah.
And that's and then but not only live together, but how that relationship also is managed through by jurists, Maliki jurists, and so I didn't look at it. So I looked at it from a historical perspective, but also from an anthropological perspective.
Yes.
I'm an anthropologist.
Now you are identified, recognized as anthropologist.
Yes. So as an anthropologist, I have to talk to people.
Yes.
If you look at the history of the research that have been done about Jews of Morocco, it has always been done by Jews about Jews generally. And I'm not talking about historians, even though you have the school of Rabat that goes back to the work of German Ayyash and scholars like Muhammad Kanbib and Jama' Bayda and other scholars. But the work that we're interested in is to think about how different generations of Muslims in these desert Saharan environment think about Jews who have left the region. There are no Jews anymore. I'm talking about 2004, where I did my interviews.
Yeah.
And then, so how do people perceive them? How do people think about, so it's about memory, it's about generational memory,
narratives,
it's also about transmission of knowledge,
narratives.
local narratives, and it's also about the transmission of memory.
Yeah.
So that's the anthropological part. Then that anthropological part has to be contextualized in the history of relationship between Jews and Muslims, relationship between in the Arabo-Israeli conflict, the question of Palestine, and all of these things. So
you broaden the field.
Yeah, because memory is not only locally influenced, but also globally and regionally influenced as well. So I have to think about how to analyze this relationship and the relationship between Moroccans and Palestine, Moroccans and Jews, Moroccan Jews and the monarchy, and all of these things. As a scholar, I have to bracket off my membership and my feelings as a Muslim, and then think about them as objectively as possible. So that's where the foundational work. Then from there, I had to move to something different, to how to think about questions of migration.
Yes.
Why Jews left? Who were the people who were still thinking about the Jews of the South before I go to national level and before I become a scholar of Morocco. I see myself as a scholar of global Moroccan Judaism.
Exactly.
And that's where my position as the Maurice Amado Chair in Sephardic Studies at UCLA, which is the oldest Amado chair in the United States, that I happened to hold that position, and that position allowed me to create other things, to do, first of all, or to work on the creating a Moroccan studies program, Moroccan Jewish studies program, and now with the help and the work with a colleague of mine, Brahim Al-Gibli, we're working on, not working, but we are relaunching what we call Moroccan Amazigh Studies program. Why? Yeah. Because UCLA was the first university in the United States to teach Tamazight, the first university in the United States to teach Moroccan Darija, going back to 1959, Tamazight, 1961 Moroccan Darija. And they had a program until 1993. So we want to go back to really relaunching that and position Morocco as position UCLA, make sure UCLA is still the center of Moroccan studies. It used to be in the past.
And all the memory you are talking about is so vivid. We see it as it was just unfolding now because all what you are saying about mobility, about migration, it's so important. And you have very important papers on Jewish merchants towards Morocco. You have papers about الحراثين, العطارة والحراثين. Maybe a word about these two very known words in Morocco. Who were the Atara and who are the Haratins?
So let me step back before I answer your questions and then contextualize this, why I am trying to ask these questions and how I go about answering them. So I am somebody who reads a lot and deals with colonial history.
Yeah.
French colonial history. Morocco, that part of Morocco has been written by colonial ethnographers and travelers, including Charles de Foucault, who wrote the famous, or whatever how people think about it, Aux connaissances au Maroc. That's what really partly what led to the colonization of Morocco. So if you read Aux connaissances au Maroc, it has its own descriptions of the typology of how the different groups lived in that part of Morocco. Includes, so we have the Shorfa, the Marabtin, the Haratin. The Haratin, there are differences. People think that they are descendants of slaves. Some people think that they are just it signifies farmers and people who happen to be experts in desert and in oasis agriculture. Different people, but for me, what I try to do is, first of all, understand that colonial writing, and then think about it in the present moment through the views of the local population today.
Oh yes.
So
the perspective from the present.
From the present. So and that's so by interviewing members of the Haratin group that I happen to be part of, I happen to be from, in the all over the Anti-Atlas. So Haratin lived mostly in the region of the Anti-Atlas and also in Mauritania, but also as well as in some parts of Algeria. Their descendants still, or many of their descendants still live in this part of Morocco, although also other descendants live all over Morocco, especially because of migration, mostly to Casablanca and to the north, and many also ended up in Europe.
So you mentioned the French colonialism, and you are really, there are very few anthropologists and historians in Morocco, coming from Morocco as you are, who are interested in Second World War in Morocco, and you have collected many French postcards and trying to have them as documents of this period, which is not that much documented in Morocco.
So there are different points here that I can answer from your question. The first one has to do with why are we interested in World War II? I think there's so much has been written about World War II, but we still need, but we just scratching the surface. And we need, as Moroccan scholars, using Moroccan archives and also in relation to other global archives, to read it from the perspective of the Moroccans. So that's why I'm interested in World War II. I'm interested in the question of the Holocaust. I was interested in writing about what happened to Moroccan Jews during the World War II. Also, not only by...
You have a beautiful book called Undesirables.
That's a comic. It's a graphic novel. The reason why I chose the medium of the graphic novel, because I am trying to talk to a global readership to explain how North Africa and Morocco in particular was at some point a receiving home to a lot of people who were fleeing Nazi German policies and Vichy policies. Although some of them ended up in camps that were set up by Vichy in Morocco, in Algeria as well. But I wanted to make sure that we rewrite this history through different forms to reach different publics, to educate different publics, and to make sure that because if we don't do this work, somebody else have to do it, and they might do it in a bad way. So, yes, given the fact how we know the language, we have access to all the different languages that we control the text, we know the text, so we've at least to put our perspectives out there. And that's why I thought that not only writing about minorities and following the work that German Ayyash, Kanbib and Baida and others done, and Hatimi and others done, but also we have also to think about as far as Jewish studies, but also as far as World War II, we have also to have a role there as historians, as anthropologists, as sociologists.
Oh, yeah, that's very important. And let's jump now to really the horizon of all the memory you are dealing with. This horizon comes just in the work you are now doing with your daughter, Majdoulin, about the last Rqas in Morocco, about your family history. And I found that it is completely connected with all what you said, to come back to these local roots and see towards the many decades that were the decades your father was working as a courier, and to just show and shed light on the global history from the local one. And please let's have some hints about this last work you did with your daughter.
So when you are, just like in any profession, if you're an artist, somebody who does the leash, you go through, you become really perfect, and you get to start thinking about different ways of how to put all those different small pieces over time. So you become a professional, but an artist. So it's the same way for us when we are in the business of scholarship and research. We make mistakes, we make faulty interpretations, but over the years,
not everyone recognizes that.
we do, and we have to recognize it, because yes, because if you don't recognize that, you will never keep at becoming better at what you do. So I take that seriously. So for me, I'm always thinking, my brain is always thinking about how to build this house. When I die, I want to leave something that when people look at my work, they see that I covered so many things, and when they put them together, I gave them a picture of my region, of Morocco, of the globe. That's hopefully, yes.
Yes.
That's my hope. Now,
beautiful project.
No, this book that you're talking about, I thought about this book in 1996.
Why this precise date?
I started thinking, because that's the first time I started interviewing my father about Ticint, when I did my work on Amazigh folk dances in Ticint.
Oh, yes.
So I started thinking about it, and that's how I started interviewing him. So over a period of 15 years, I have more than 120 hours of interviews with my father.
That's beautiful.
Who just passed away recently at the age of 110. And that's, for me, that project of interviewing him, I said, one day I'm going to write a book about my dad and, of course, my mom at some point. But all of these interviews that I did, one day I was reading a book by Mukhtar Susi, again back to Mukhtar Susi, من أفواه الرجال, the first volume, and he talks about why it's important for scholars and historians to write about their families, because just like they are writing about other people, their story could inform the public about history and about the future, about the realities of their communities. So that's why I took this project to start thinking about how to write this book about my dad. But when he passed away, my daughter said, what's the status of the book about my grandpa? I said, well, I'm still thinking about it. She said, well, let's do this. So let's work on a very short version of it where I can draw.
She has beautiful capabilities in drawing, your daughter, I might say.
So, thank you. So she said, well, I can draw his story, and then you can. First of all, she proposed to do the drawing and to do the writing. But then, because she's in 8th grade, she said, no, she's 14 years. She's about to be 14 years in May 19. And she said, well, I can't do it because I have so much work. Why don't you write the text, and then I can do the drawing?
Yes.
And for us, we focused only on his experience as a raqqas. What is a raqqas? A raqqas is a courrier who takes mail from one place to another on foot during the colonial period. There is what we call Sharifian raqqas, which was introduced in 1893 by Mulay Hassan, because after the French and the Europeans started to introduce the post and the mail into Morocco, the Sharifian government decided, no, they thought that they were already concerned about colonialism, and so they said, well, let's probably stop this, and that's how they introduced their own. So my daughter and I, we wrote this book about my father it summarizes in some way all my work.
Oh, yeah.
In this, you will see my work on Amazigh, my work on Jews, my work on Haratin, my work on agriculture, my work on manuscripts, my work on farming.
We come to the end of the program. I'm so sorry. It's fascinating. I have to say that your book is available now in the Fair Book in Rabat, happening these days. And of course, we may read you in many ways with now all the links we have. I will see you next time for another session of our program. Thank you so much.
And thank you for the invitation. And I hope to talk more about other topics in the future with you and your audience. Thank you.
Really, thank you so much.